What are capital cities, and what role do they play in the political history of a state? If we take the encyclopedia definition that a capital city is where the seat of government is located, then we could say that their role is negligible, as government bodies can easily be moved from one building to another or from one city to another. Capital cities are, of course, much more than this. They are a symbol of the state, a reflection of its political system. Nothing signifies a change in a country's political trajectory quite like moving the seat of government to a different city.
What was the first capital city of Russia? Surprisingly, the answer isn't clear-cut. Russian statehood is conventionally thought to have its roots in the emergence of the Kievan Rus around 882 AD, when scattered Eastern Slavic tribes living along the rivers of the East European plain were formally unified under Oleg of Novgorod, a prince in the Varangian Rurik dynasty. As a result, Kyiv, located on the Dnieper River, at the center of the trade route from Scandinavia to Byzantium, is still today referred to as the mother of all Russian cities. However, the vicissitudes of history dictated that Kyiv would, for extended periods of time, be situated outside of the Russian state. Today, Kyiv is both the capital and most populous city in Ukraine. From the Russian perspective, having a founding city outside of its borders creates difficulties for nation building. As a result, Russian historians have posited a variety of alternative first capital cities, each located within the confines of the contemporary Russian state. According to historical records, the Varangian prince Rurik, who founded the Rurik dynasty that ruled over Russia until the early 17th century, exercised his power in the city of Novgorod prior to his successor's founding of Kievan Rus in 882 AD. Having almost never fallen under foreign rule, Novgorod is often considered a worthy candidate for the title of first capital of the Rus. But politically, Novgorod has always been quite distinct from the rest of Russia. As a partner of the Hanseatic League, which dominated commercial activity in Northern Europe from the 13th to the 15th centuries, Novgorod became an early center of participatory democracy and international trade prior to its conquest by Ivan the Terrible in 1570. As a result, it does not quite fit as the cradle of statehood for a country with a deeply rooted monarchical tradition. When Peter the Great decided to move the Russian capital to the Baltic Sea coast in 1712, many historians recalled that Prince Rurik and his retinue had established a stronghold in the town of Ladoga prior to moving southward to Novgorod. Perhaps this city could lay claim to the title of first capital of Rus. After all, a historical capital on the country's extreme northwestern border would surely lend credence to the later decision to make St. Petersburg the new capital of the empire. Today, the city of Ladoga boasts a fortress, a street named after the Varangians, and a monument to Prince Rurik. Established under the Rurik dynasty in 1263, the city of Vladimir is often considered the first true capital of the independent Principality of Muscovy. This territory, located in the so-called Apolya, or area behind the forest, had a favorable climate and forests that offered the inhabitants cover from devastating Mongol incursions from the east. It also provided the Muscovite Grand Duchy with access to countless resources from amidst the surrounding flatlands. Perhaps most importantly, located on the civilizational border between Slavic, Finno-Ugric, and Turkic peoples, it was a key site for intercultural exchange of goods and ideas. So why did the Russian core end up taking shape around Moscow, a relatively insignificant settlement that originally served as a border fortress of the Vladimir Suzdal Principality? The answer to this question is rooted in geography. Moscow is located precisely where the two main rivers of the Russian plain, the Volga and the Oka, converge. As a result, the city of Moscow controlled the transfer of goods from one river system to another, and became the economic core of the Volga region. In the 1400s, Grand Prince Ivan III of Muscovy cleverly styled himself as a Tsar, in the tradition of the Orthodox Byzantine Empire and referred to Moscow as the Third Rome, thereby identifying Moscow as a successor to Constantinople and the center of true Christianity. Ivan III also consolidated autocracy and led the gathering of Russian lands by conquering other principalities, including the reluctant Novgorod, thereby opening the path for the Moscow Principality to become the capital of post-Mongol Russia. Ivan III's efforts to stem foreign invasions and expand the Russian Empire from the capital of Moscow were instrumental to the creation of a centralized Russian state. As a result, Moscow persisted as the core of the Russian state from the late 1400s up until 1712, when Tsar Peter the Great decided to move the empire's capital to St. Petersburg, a swampy territory in western Russia located on the mouth of the Gulf of Finland. Thanks to its port access and physical proximity to Moscow, St. Petersburg provided the perfect location for the Russian Empire to enter into the global sea trade. Tsar Peter the Great was able to move Russia's capital to the Baltic Sea following Sweden's defeat in the Great Northern War, which lasted from 1700 to 1721. St. Petersburg, Russia's newly constructed capital on the Baltic Sea, was intended to symbolize European modernization and to usher in a new political elite, replacing Russian traditional boyars with a more loyal aristocratic class. Visually, the new capital represented everything that the Russian elite believed a European city should look like. It was understated on the outside, luxurious on the inside, and generally straightforward and spacious. Although ideal for holding parades and ceremonies, the layout of the city served to further alienate the city's general population from those who held positions of power. It is perhaps unsurprising that St. Petersburg became the backdrop for the world-shaking Russian Revolution of 1917. In 1918, Bolshevik leadership moved the Russian capital back from St. Petersburg to Moscow. Not only did Vladimir Lenin fear that St. Petersburg would be vulnerable to seizure by monarchists supported by interventionist European powers, he also believed that Moscow would provide more fertile ground for a new political system than the old imperial capital, which was filled with anti-Bolshevik aristocrats, military officers, and government officials. Upon moving the capital to Moscow, those in power began to rebuild Moscow as they saw fit. At this time, Moscow became one of the main centers of the global architectural revolution, emphasizing the importance of public spaces and elevating functionality over elegance. Streets and skyscrapers were erected across the city, bearing Soviet names and symbols. In 1930, several years after Lenin's death, a mausoleum was constructed in his honor on the Red Square. The Kremlin, perhaps the apotheosis of Soviet symbolism, developed into a deserted haven of supreme power, fenced off from its people by high fortress walls. In 1991, the people of Moscow stood up for the democratization in Russia, contributing to the collapse of the Soviet Union and the end of the Cold War. Today, the best traditions of Western urbanism have taken hold in the city, from the towering skyscrapers in Moscow City to the open public spaces such as Zaryadye Park. People from all over the country move to Moscow every year, with more distant regions across the country suffering as a result. Today, the competition and innovation at the heart of the capital have led to the emergence of a new creative class in Moscow, one that, far from feeling dependent on the government, desires to engage with it on equal footing.
Russia today faces the difficult dilemma of how to ensure its spatial development, given the declining and sparse population. The only true answer to this question is by decentralizing power, giving all of its regions equal weight in political matter, and developing cities far away from Moscow. At the same time, global competition today is characterized by the struggle between huge agglomerations, which, due to their size and multi-structured nature, are capable of creating conditions for super competition. Finding a new political and economic balance between the capital and the regions can thus be considered one of the most pressing spatial planning challenges in Russia today.